The Abyss of Omnipotence. I was in a very depressed frame of mind one Christmas night when I was taking up in the spirit. There, I saw a very deep whirlpool, wide and exceedingly dark. In this abyss, all beings were included, crowded together and compressed. The darkness illuminated and penetrated everything. The unfathomable depth of the abyss was so high that no one could reach it. I will not attempt now to describe how it was formed, for there is no time now to speak of it, and I cannot put it into words, since it is unspeakable. Second, this is not a convenient time for it, because much pertains to what I saw. It was the entire omnipotence of our beloved. In it, I saw the Lamb take possession of our beloved. In the vast space, I saw festivities, such as David playing the harp, and he struck the harp strings. Then I perceived an infant being born in the souls who love in secret, the souls hidden from their own eyes, in the deep abyss of which I speak, and to whom nothing is lacking, but that they should lose themselves in it. I saw the forms of many different souls according to what each has done, each one's life had been. Of those whom I saw, the one who I already knew remained known to me, and those I did not know became known to me. I received interior knowledge about some, and also exterior knowledge about many. And certain ones I knew interiorly, having never seen them exteriorly. Then I saw coming as it were a bird, namely the one called Phoenix. It devoured a gray eagle that was young, and a yellow eagle with new feathers that was old. These eagles kept flying about incessantly in the deep abyss. Then I heard a voice like thunder that said, "Do you know who these different colored eagles are?" And I answered, "I should like to know this better." And although I asked to know this, I nevertheless perceived the essence of all things I saw. For all that is seen in the spirit, when one is ravished by love, is understood, tasted, and heard through and through. So was it also here. I wished, however, to hear the voice that came to my hearing from the beloved. And indeed, the truth was told to me concerning all this, in particular the natures and perfections comprised in my vision. All this would take too long. I pass over it. For a great book would be required if one were to write everything perfectly in full truth. One of the eagles who were swallowed was Saint Augustine, and the other, myself. The old feathers that were gray, and the eaglet that was young, this was I, for I was attaining to perfection, becoming and growing in love. The feathers that were yellow and old, this was the full grownness of Saint Augustine, who was old and perfect in the love of our beloved. The old age I had was in the perfect nature of eternal being, even though I was youthful in created nature. The young feathers of the old eagle were the renewed splendor he received from me in the new heavenly glory of my love, with which I loved him and so greatly desired with him to pour forth one single love in the Trinity, where he himself was burning so totally with an unquenchable love. The youth that the old feathers that were yellow had signified was also the renewal of love, which continually grows in heaven and on earth. The phoenix that swallowed the eagles was the unity in which the Trinity dwells, wherein both of us are lost. When afterwards I returned to myself, where I find myself poor and miserable. I reflected on this union with St. Augustine, to which I had attained. I was not contented with what my dearly beloved had just permitted in spite of my consent and emotional attraction. It weighed on me now that this union with St. Augustine had made me so perfectly happy, whereas previously I had possessed a union far from saints and men, with God alone. From this I understood that neither in heaven nor in the spirit can one enjoy one's own will except in accordance with the will of love. And as I thought about this attitude, I asked my beloved to deliver me from it. For I wish to remain in his deepest abyss, alone in fruition. And I understood that since my childhood, God has drawn me to himself alone, far from all other beings, whom he welcomes to himself in other manners. But I well know that whatsoever was in him, in highest measure, eternal glory and perfect enjoyment. But I likewise wish to remain in him alone. I understood this when I asked for it, and so great desired it, and suffered so much. Then I remained free. No doubt I continued to belong to God alone, while being united in love to this creature. But my liberty gained then was given to me, moreover for reasons of my own, which neither Augustine nor many others had. I did not suggest this as a claim to be more privileged than St. Augustine, but in the time when I knew the truth of being, I did not want to receive any comfort from him, insofar as he was a creature, or to accept any joy amid my pains. And so I would allow myself no satisfaction in the security that was given to me in this union with St. Augustine. For I am a free human creature, and also pure as to one part, and I can desire freely with my will, and I can will as highly as I wish, and seize and receive from God all that he is, without objection or anger on his part, what no saint can do. For the saints have their will perfectly according to their nature, and they can no longer will beyond what they have. I have hated many great, wonderful deeds and experiences because I wished to belong to love alone, and because I could not believe that any human creature loved him so passionately as I. Although I know it is a fact, and it is indoubtable still. I cannot believe or feel it so powerfully am I touched by love. In this wonderful way, I belong to God alone in pure love, and to my saint in love, and then to all the saints, each one according to his dignity, and to man according to what each one loved, and also according to what he was and he still is. But in striving for this, I have never experienced love in any sort of way as repose. On the contrary, I found love as heavy burden and disgrace. For I was a human creature, and love is terrible and implacable, devouring and burning without regard for anything. The soul is contained in one little river. Her depth is quickly filled up, her dikes quickly burst. Thus, with rapidity, the God has engulfed human nature, wholly in itself. I used to love the blessedness of the saints, but I never ceased to desire the repose in which God within them had fruition of himself. Their quietude had many a time in my inquitable. Their quietude was many a time my inquietable. Yes, truly, it was always 40 pains against one single pleasure. I could not but know that they were smiled at while I wept, that they boasted themselves fortunate while I pitied myself, that they were honored by God, and that God was honored because of them in every land, while I was an object of derision. All this, nevertheless, was my greatest repose, for he willed it. But this was such repose as come to those who desire love and fruition, and who have in this desire such woe as I do. Now, for persons, my repose lay in loving each of them in what was proper to him, and wishing for each one of them that only what he held desirable was and good might happen to him. Whether this good was that their will of the divine will was a question with which I did not meddle. But what they had in love, I loved for God, in order that he might strengthen it for himself and cause it to grow to perfection. Such was my desire. Because I loved God's being loved, I wish no pleasure from it but that. As for persons who failed God and were strangers to him, they weighed it heavily on me. For I was so laden with his love and captivated by it, that I could scarcely endure that anyone should love him less than I. And charity for others wounded me cruelly, that he should let these souls be such strangers to him, and so deprived of all the good that he himself is in love. This was such an intolerable burden to me in many hours that it happened to me as it did to Moses because of his love for his sister. I would have wished that he give his love to others or withdraw it from me. I would gladly have purchased love for them by accepting that he should love them and hate me. And sometimes too, because he did not do this, I would willingly have turned away from him in love and would have loved them in spite of his wrath. Seeing that these unfortunate could not know the sweet and ardent love that dwells in his holy nature, I would most gladly have loved them, had I been able. Also, charity has wounded me the most, except for actual love. What is actual love? It is the divine power that must have priority, and it does so in me. For the sovereign power that is actual, love spares no one, either in hate or in love. Favor is never found in it. This power held me back once again, when I had wished to free all men in the twinkling of an eye. Otherwise than in accordance with how God has chosen them. When I could thus turn myself against him, it was a beautiful and free expression of life as a human being. Then I could desire what I wished. But when I did the opposite, I was more beautiful and taken up into a fuller participation of the divine nature. Thus I have lived quietly as a human being, and so I have taken repose neither in saints nor in men on earth. And so I have lived in misery without love, in the love of God and those who are his. And while I do not receive from him what is mine, and what God does not yet give to me, I have nevertheless, and it shall remain, I have it nevertheless, and it shall remain mine. Hence I never felt love, unless as an ever new death, until time of my consolation came, and God granted me to know the perfect pride of love, to know how we shall love in the humanity, or in order to come to the divinity, and rightly know it in one single nature. This is the noblest life that can be lived in the kingdom of God. This rich repose God gave me, and truly in a happy hour.